In May 2021, preliminary findings from a survey of the grounds at the former Kamloops Indian Residential School by the Tk'emlúps First Nation uncovered the remains of 215 children clandestinely buried on the site. According to the Tk'emlúps First Nation Chief Ross and Casimir, the missing children are undocumented deaths, with some as young as 3 years old. Tk'emlúps said they are working with the coroner's service, contacting the students' home communities, working with museums to find records of the deaths, and that they will provide an appropriate burial for the children's remains. In Canada, the Indian residential school system was a network of boarding schools set up to educate and subjugate Indigenous peoples. It is estimated more than 150,000 children attended residential schools in Canada from the 1830s to 1996. Two primary objectives of the residential school system were to remove and isolate children from the influence of their home and families, to erase their traditions and cultures, and to ultimately assimilate them. The residential school network was funded by the Canadian government's Department of Indian Affairs and administered by various churches. The Kamloops Indian Residential School was operated by the Catholic Church. The church ran the school from 1890 to 1969 until the federal government took over administration, ultimately closing it in 1978. Most of the children who attended the Catholic-operated residential school would have been from First Nations communities across British Columbia and beyond. According to Mary Ellen Turpel-Lafond, the director of the Indian Residential School History and Dialogue Centre at UBC, the Truth and Reconciliation Commission that was set up in 2008 to investigate residential schools, it was told of at least 50 deaths that had occurred at the Kamloops institution while it was operated by the Catholic Church. She said, massive ongoing problems with historical records, including those held by certain Catholic entities that they refused to release, have made abuses and deaths of children at Catholic-operated residential schools difficult to investigate. The National Centre for Truth and Reconciliation estimates about 4,100 children died at the residential schools based on death records, but the true total is likely much higher. There are many questions about how these children died given the extensive history of child rape and physical abuse documented in residential schools and committed by the Catholic Church worldwide. Indigenous community survivors of the residential schools have said for years that many children went to the schools and never returned. Others say that they heard constant rumors when they were younger of children being buried at the back of the schools. Indigenous leaders and experts are calling on Canada's government to declare sites of former residential schools as protected areas and to allow a full investigation. They are also calling on the government to fund the use of ground-penetrating radar equipment at former residential school sites across the country. The Truth and Reconciliation Commission called on the government to create an online registry of residential school burials and to work with impacted groups to develop a plan for the ongoing identification, documentation, maintenance, and commemoration of clandestine burial sites. The Canadian government lowered flags at half-mast to honour the 215 children found in BC and promised to provide concrete support for survivors of residential schools and Indigenous peoples. The Catholic Church pledged in a public statement to do whatever we can to heal that suffering. It is unclear what sort of assistance, if any, the Catholic Church is pledging to provide. Community organisers across Canada have held vigils over the weekend of May 28 through the 30th, with more planned throughout the week, to honour the 215 children found in BC, and call for action to search for other grave sites nationwide. At several vigils, 215 shoes were set out to represent each child. The shoes were placed on government building steps, and also on Catholic Church steps. While the Canadian government has taken steps towards truth and reconciliation, the Catholic Church is far behind facing justice and a reckoning for its own crimes, which seemingly repeat, not only in Canada, but worldwide.
at heart.